Hi, it's episode 340 of your favorite daily podcast, A Couple of Things, a podcast about things. On today's episode, I talk with my friend Olabinjo about careers again, but this time we talk about it from a different perspective on trying new things, being a beginner again, and it's a fun conversation. You'll enjoy it. Happy listening. Hi, and welcome to today's episode of A Couple of Things. This is my second guest that is coming back, or my third guest if you count my flatmates who has refused to be counted as a guest. But anyway, this is my second returning guest, and it's Olabinjo. We've already done introduction, so we'll skip the introduction part, except you want to add any new thing to your old introduction.
I don't think there's anything to be added. But like I was feeling special that I'm going to be one of the first or the first person that has come back. But apparently
You were well, so
it's
my
not so.
friend my friend came to visit me, and so we just did her own
Wow,
together.
must be nice.
Yeah. But anyway, you are the second repeat guest. I think that deserves like a trophy. I'm going to put applause sound in this
Yeah, I was
part.
going to say you should do one of those things that they used to do
I'll
in
do applause
Cool
sound.
FM. Those Cool FM things where they'll clap for you in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. And then but when we did the first episode, we did not
Yes.
talk about how we know each other.
Okay.
So let's do that part. How do we know each other?
I think like we know each other from it's either your blog or Twitter. I don't know which one. I don't know which one came first.
Okay, exactly.
I don't know
I
which
feel
one came
like everybody
first.
that I met in those early days on Twitter is whether it was the blog or the Twitter that was the first. We don't know.
Yeah, I
We
don't
shall
know.
know
I don't know
that
which came
it
first.
was just together
Yeah.
there. And that's wait, I do think we talked about it because I talked about how it was through you that I got into tech. Okay, no, that was just me talking on a different episode about how I got into tech.
Oh, okay.
But yes, Binjo is how I got into tech because we knew each other from all the blogging things, and then you were already doing tech stuff then.
Yeah.
And
Which is
you
like
started
a
with
thing I
photography
regret.
actually.
Because like all of my friends in tech in like the
Internal and
last
external screaming.
5 years, I've not had a good experience. And it's primarily my fault.
How is it your fault?
It's me that was like, let's come and do this thing. Let me intro you to somebody. Like, so it's
No,
it's
but
it's
it
it's,
was
it's
really
okay,
great in
maybe
the beginning
partially.
though.
Eh,
So we were all having a
Please.
great time in the
I
beginning.
can't say that I honestly cannot say that like if I look back objectively, right, I can't say, oh, it was a great time,
No,
right?
I mean I
But it
do
was
have to
fun.
say
It was
that
fun. Because there
maybe
was so
the
much work to do.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean maybe the first year wasn't so great for me, but I would say that like the middle part was really great. And then the last few years I've just been somehow.
it's been a pot of beans. No offense to beans
No,
lovers.
beans is a great meal, so we're not going to. It's what sport beans, not beans. Beans is great. Sport beans is not great. So a pot of sport beans, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. So we know each other
Yeah.
from the interwebs, basically.
Yeah.
I think. Oh my god, I think you're actually one of the first people that I met online in real life, and then my mom was like, "Why are you meeting people that you are meeting on the
Because
internet
yeah,
in real life?"
weirdo. Yeah, weirdo.
And and she actually drove me to
Yes, I
meet you
remember.
in real life. Like,
I
who is this
remember.
person that you're going to meet?
I actually remember that. That was
That was
very
funny.
awkward and funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, every like the first couple of people that I met in person from Twitter and the blog, my mother actually carried me to those places to see those people eyeball to eyeball. That you
That's
are
so
the
nice.
person that
Yeah.
but yeah.
I wonder if
Anyways.
people still do that online like these days without like any professional knowledge of what the person does or who the person is. Because that time it was just so different, right?
Yeah. I
Like
don't
I don't know
know.
if it was the age thing or it was just the things we were doing, but like it was probably much safer to meet someone online than it is today. There
Yeah. I think I don't know that.
were not
I
that many
guess
creeps online.
yeah,
The creeps didn't
maybe
have
at
mobile phones or
least
internet.
in Nigeria, sha, maybe the reverse is the case in some other parts of the world. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, yeah, it was pretty calm. I was actually having a conversation with someone today about the exact same thing about how like we just everybody was just online. It was a different kind of it was a different time.
It was a
It
different
was a
time.
different time. I can't imagine me now being 13 on the internet, bro.
Yeah, that's actually pretty scary. That's
Yikes.
like completely different world, completely different risks, completely different. Like, also,
But
I would say maybe it's way too globalized on some level, which
yeah.
is like Yeah, you could be
Even
meeting
though
some, I don't know,
yeah, even though we were so
money
globally
launderer.
connected then, it was different.
It
It
was
was
very
still
different.
smaller.
Yeah, yeah, it was much,
But
much smaller.
now it's wild
Yeah,
and
it's a big
it's
world
very
out there.
crazy out there. Because I do remember that I had some friends that I made as well online, like from the blogging era, that were in like Kenya and South
Oh, nice.
Africa and some other African countries,
Mm-hmm.
so not just Nigerians,
Oh,
but
nice.
and these are real people. Like I see, we're not really in touch like before, but I see them online. I see
Yeah,
like when they post things on LinkedIn, those kinds of things. I'm like, these are real people who are doing real things,
yeah,
and we're all like the same age,
yeah.
so it was in wild times. I
I was
remember.
mostly meeting older people, which is so funny.
Oh, I did meet a lot of older people, but I remember in my book blogging era, I had a lot of online friends in the book blogging community that were like
Mm-hmm.
even younger than me, and I was pretty young. So I'm just
Yeah,
like, what were we all doing on the internet? And we had book blogs, and we had like I did I was going through some of my old blog posts, and I did like a we used to do this crossover blog thing where you do a crossover post on somebody's blog and you do one on your blog.
yes.
And I did it with this girl, 14-year-old girl in Midwest USA. I was just like, what
That's
is
so
going
nice.
on? Like,
My own guest blogger that was like there's like a famous person is Tosin Bucknell, and she used to write
ooh.
like a month every month for like I don't know for like a year or two
Mm.
on my blog, and I never met her in real life, like ever.
Yeah,
And she's
exactly.
late now. She's late now, but
Wow.
I never met her, which is so sad. But like
Yeah.
that's how it was. It's like it was me, somebody in SS3, which is like final year of secondary school or high school, for those who don't know what
Yeah.
that is. And there was somebody who was an adult who had who was also in media already. She was working as an OAP for one of the biggest radio stations in Lagos at the time, right? And
Mm.
she was writing on my blog. Like that's crazy. Like today, I would never reach out to such a person. I would never send a message because, like,
Uh,
I don't know. It's just like, who am I? But then it was like, oh, can you write on my blog? I was like, yeah, cool. And
You
it
know,
was cross posting.
this is very interesting because I was talking on. I had a webinar with Hillary and Iwalola about UX research and something, and I was just talking about how like when I was posting all these things, I was posting on the internet. Like when I was posting UX stuff, I was just posting because
Yeah,
I was just posting online. But now, even the things that I'm doing now, I'm so hesitant to post. Like all my data science stuff that I'm learning now and doing now. Me
yeah,
of then, I will be posting it as I'm doing it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
now I'm just like, please, it's the internet.
yeah. I think the risks are
It
just too
just
high
feels so
now.
much more high stakes
The
than
risk are just too
then.
high stakes. Also, there's too much cringe stuff. So, which is like, I feel like on some level there is the unsaid like quote unquote pressure of like being
Mm,
polished,
yeah,
right? Which is why like I still try to keep my LinkedIn posts like vibes.
lights, yeah.
Like I don't. It's not me. I'm not like I know I write some serious stuff once in a while, but it's mostly still vibes. It's like memes, which is how I've always presented stuff on the internet, right? But
Mm.
because these like this, there's this whole serious like creator class now or influencer class now. You really have to, on some level, take yourself seriously, I guess. But on the other level, is like, bro, I'm just writing to write, man. Like I'm writing because
Honestly,
I've been writing on the internet since I was what 14 or 15 years old. It's
honestly,
not because of 10,000 views.
it's not because of anything. I just want to talk. I like to talk. I'm a yapper. I'm yapping everywhere.
Exactly.
That's what's happening.
And I've been yapping about the same thing since I was a teenager. So
Like, it's not that deep. So it just the internet just
so
feels
for me, it's just yapping. Yeah. It feels less
less
personal on some
friendly.
level. Yeah, less
Exactly.
friendly.
I
Less
remember
friendly.
reading something some time ago about how we're going back. You know how first it started with like closed groups and forums and things, and then it
Yeah.
became like open, like
Web.
the the open internet and
Yeah.
social media and everything, and then how we are actually going back to closed groups
Yeah.
because like people are posting more in smaller groups,
Hmm.
WhatsApp groups, Reddit
Yeah.
groups, those
Yeah.
smaller groups than
The public.
on the quote unquote public social media. And I even
Hmm.
noticed that like I post less and less on Twitter. All my friends that I met on Twitter, everybody's like, oh, like I don't see you on Twitter as much anymore. I'm just like, bro, that place is
Yeah.
so
That's the
stressful.
devil's hell site.
But yeah, like anyway, what's on
what
your
I
mind
want,
today?
what I want before we go away from this social media, what I want to actually come back is Path. There used to be this
Do you
app
know?
called
Oh my god, I
Path.
was thinking about that
I
like
don't
a
know if
few days
somebody is going to
ago.
do it, But there was this app called Path that you could only maximally add 150 people, or was it 100 people? I don't
Yeah,
know
it was
what it was.
150 people.
But it never really grew big. So the founder, Dave, I think Dave Morin is his name, had to shut it down. So Dave Morin, if you're hearing this, I would actually pay. I would
Binjo,
actually
you
pay
don't
to just have my
understand that
closest friends in an app.
literally 2 days ago I thought about Path because I was like, this one, like, I don't think I have it in me to open another social media account. I'm just like, what is happening? And then I was like, what happened to Path? That was the
Yeah,
thing. I actually enjoy that. And like, I don't have it in me to open something new. Then they'll
me
close
too.
it again.
I'm not even,
Whatever.
which is why I'm not excited about this whole blue sky
Blue sky
stuff. I
thing.
signed up just to keep my username.
I
Signed
didn't
up
even
for
sign up.
threads just to keep my username. But like that's it. I
I
don't
didn't
have the
sign up.
energy in me. I don't know if it's my age, which it
I
probably is.
I
I
did
don't
not
have the energy in
sign
me
up.
because that time I used to be on, at the very least, maybe 10 or 15 platforms. There's no platform that was a social platform that I wasn't on.
Any
Like
new
I
one will
was
sign
there.
up.
Like we just sign up just to see what was there, right? And like now I'm just like, in hindsight, I realize how like difficult it is to build a sustainable social platform. So it's like, why should I waste my time to build an audience or to just talk somewhere where they're going to come in like 2 years? I just shut it down. Like there's no point. Like I want them to prove themselves. Let Blue Sky get to, I don't know, 500 million users active. Then I'll start yapping there. But
I don't even
otherwise, I'm
know.
just like,
Like,
ugh. I'm
I
not
don't
excited
have
about it. I can't lie.
energy. I even open account to keep your name. I did not at the threads
I
or
just
threads
did it
and
to
Blue
keep my
Sky.
name.
I did not open anyone because in fact now I don't even want to have a consistent whatever on social media. My handle is different everywhere. It's before that I was doing consistent handle everywhere. Now
Bro,
I'm
there are
not doing
scammers in
again.
this world, also. I don't know. I was
Welfare.
just
That's
like,
an angle.
I was just like,
Actually,
before
to be
somebody tries to use this to fleece me or relatives.
actually that's a good point because I do have a Twitter account that is just my actual name that I don't
Hmm.
use, but it's just my name.
Yeah,
Maybe I should do that. That's literally the only reason why I open those accounts
that would
because
make sense.
I'm not even interested in talking again on this. Is it anyway? What's on your mind today? Moving on.
What's on my mind today? So this podcast was supposed to be about money and earning more money,
Yeah.
negotiating more money, um, from salary shall 9 to 5. Or if you are looking for entrepreneurship advice, you can't get it from me. I'm a 9 to 5 guy. So 9 to 5. So which is still something I'm trying to figure out. So I guess like I just wanted to chat about it because I might have better ideas when I'm
Okay.
talking about it. So
Let's chat about it
where
then.
do you have questions for me, or should I just start?
No, just start talking. Then we'll go
Okay.
from there.
So I think that when I started working, right, I used to initially just do social media for like small businesses and some tech startups, but I quickly realized that the tech startups were more likely to be eager to sign up for this thing. They were also likely to pay more money, and in my head,
Mm,
it was the same amount of work, right? Um, so I just stopped doing stuff for SMEs.
yeah.
I was just like, yeah, this SME thing, it's not bad, but like it's just the same amount of work as these tech companies, and the tech companies are going to pay more money. So I just focused on that, right? And kept doing that on and on over the years before I eventually started doing more broad marketing stuff and thinking beyond just social media alone. But like it has come again to me recently, and this started happening 2 or 3 years ago. I started applying for some jobs after I left Future Africa, which was a VC firm, tech thing. And I also realized again that even in tech, there is levels to compensation, work, and whatever it is, right? And then I
Levels
came,
day.
yep, levels, levels, levels. Then I came across this article by this guy, the pragmatic software engineer.
Oh yeah, I know that guy.
I forgot what it's called.
Gregory Otis.
Gregory Ozersley or
Oz, yeah,
Orozli.
it's a G.
Yeah.
The initials are G O. I know that.
Yes. Yes. So I came across pragmatic um, software engineer blog. The pragmatic engineer is what it's called. Gergely Oros. Okay.
We're close. We
So,
tried.
and there's a blog post he had written about I forget the name of this blog post now. There's a blog post is written basically about software engineering salaries and how
Mm,
like if you're a software engineer at a small dev shop or dev agency, you're probably getting paid some amount of money. If you're a software engineer at a startup, you get paid some amount of money. If you're a software engineer in big tech, if you're a software engineer in a scale up, if you're a software engineer working for government or working for some traditional firm, like all these companies have kind of just somehow deciding on
Yeah.
how much engineering is worth to them, or how much that job is worth to them, and how much they're going to pay for it. Like, it's not like they sat down in a room somewhere and made decisions, although I know there's some of this in American tech history. But it's just happened that they all just happen to pay different salaries for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Some is that they have more capital to spend on engineers. Others want to hire the best engineers, so they want to use the money to compete, money as a pool to compete, money and stock compensation. Others is just like it's what they can afford, and they're companies that are traditional companies, but they're the biggest in the world at what they do. So they also want to hire the best. Like they're competing for engineers with big tech,
Yeah.
right? So I read that article and I was like, oh, this is interesting. No, I've never seen this about like marketing, which is what I do. And so I started to do my own research. I literally followed this along the same lines, did my own research, and I followed the same lines: agency, startup, scale up, big tech, new ideas thing. And I was like, oh my god, it's actually the same thing, right?
Hmm.
So for example, in crypto, which is where I've worked in the last 3 or 4 years, the salaries are absolutely crazy across
Yeah.
board. Like crazy across board. And just because they have so much capital, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they don't even know what to do with it. Salaries are like higher than average salaries, even for very entry level roles, right?
Yeah.
So I would see very entry level roles, which is like, oh, we need somebody with 1 or 2 years experience, and they'll pay more than a Nigerian company would pay for a country manager.
Mm.
Do you get what I'm saying? And a country manager
Yeah.
has like maybe like 7, 10 years experience, and so there's probably a small group of people in Lagos who work in crypto who on the outside don't have this 5, 10 years experience in marketing or management or whatever, but they're probably out earning like a bank CEO, which
Mm.
is just it was just like it was really just opening to me. It was like it was just mind blowing when I read that article and the concept. And I was like, oh, this is something I'd never thought of before. And this is very interesting to think about, right? So I started to, apply that in my own applications. Just generally look at like, oh, what is like behind the salaries here? What is salary in this industry?
Yeah.
And then one funny thing I stumbled upon was that law firms in the UK and in Europe actually pay top salary for digital marketing talents.
Interesting.
Which again, nobody has ever told me before. This is not a thing. There's no a thing. There's no a thing of, oh yeah, a marketer for law firms. Like I know
Yeah.
maybe they have their small niches, but this is not well known. And I found that out, and I didn't get it obviously, but like it was interesting to me because I was talking to a friend about it who does more like performance marketing, ads on Meta and Google stuff, just to like help him see those opportunities. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't know, I didn't know. We just stumbled
Hmm.
upon this knowledge, and it made me wonder like how much of people don't want to pay for this stuff is just what we know and what we see, but there are probably small niches somewhere where you don't even have to like you don't need some full context or full knowledge of the industry itself, but you can just do the same work you were doing in job
Yeah.
A, in job B, and get paid 2 times, 3 times, 4 times more, and even
Yeah.
obviously have even maybe even more impact, right?
Mm.
Because sometimes we do feel like, oh, the income is capped, blah blah blah. But it's like it really all just depends on who you work for, and that's like one way to just like increase your income, right? You just go and work for somebody
The
else.
rights industry. I find that very, very interesting because the thing there's something that has like underpinned my I don't know how do you tech people say it's this is Sabi of careers and career paths and everything
Yeah,
that started to realize maybe like 3 4 years into working in tech is that you actually don't know a lot of things, and every decision that you're making is based on a very limited amount of information that is available to you.
so limited.
And
Oh,
there's so many unknown unknowns that sometimes you don't even know if you're making the right decision, quote unquote, because the right decision is just based on the information that is currently available to you at this point in time. So like
yes,
if you don't know that, oh, there's a niche of marketers for law firms that is a well-paying niche, how do you know? How do you even like, do you get what I mean?
yeah. I feel like I don't know the way to know. You just have to like you have to just be like a web surfer. Because all of
Mm.
this was just me just looking at the internet. Like I wasn't particularly good in that. I was just scrolling around one day and I noticed a pattern that I would see law firms hiring digital marketing managers. I think it's called performance marketing specifically, performance marketing managers. And the pay was competing with crypto companies that have raised billions of dollars in funding.
Wow.
Do you get? I was like, oh, this is interesting. How to get it? No idea. But like, it was just
Yet.
like a
No
random
idea
data
yet.
point for me to be like, oh, there's probably a bunch of people who literally have career doing marketing for law firms. And what kind of
Mm.
ads do they do? They basically help you try to find out. It's all these like class action
Yeah.
lawsuit firms where it's like, oh, there are people, I don't know who, maybe they use some particular sunscreen and they've won
Yeah.
some competition. You need to find them either to get them to sue the company or to get them to claim their um to claim
The
the money from the
settlements.
settlement,
Yeah.
right? And so they have to figure out some digital way to reach those people, and they have to do their very best at it. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting. I never it was never anything I thought of in the sense of like, oh, how do we use ads? Okay, to find people that might be interested in a class action lawsuits. Do you, do you get what I'm saying?
But which, like, from their perspective, makes sense
Makes so much sense because
because
people
they
will
need
sign
to
up.
find people who exactly.
They need to find people to collect their money.
There's a market there, exactly. So
Yeah,
it makes sense. And what you said now, you said something that also is something that I also like realized I've been thinking of. Is like when you look at things like job titles. You
yeah,
mentioned, for example, now that the job title is different for this industry. You said it's called performance marketing, which is not something
yeah.
that is in tech industry will more be called like digital marketing or growth marketing or
No, there's a lot of
whatever.
performance marketing
No,
actually,
I
but
know,
like,
but
yeah,
like most people, if you throw a stone in where there's a lot of marketing people in tech, their title is probably not
yeah.
performance
There's not
marketer.
that many performance
Do you
marketing
get what I
people.
mean? So
Yeah,
like somebody who is coming into tech and wants to, oh, I want to do marketing in tech, they're most likely looking for product marketing manager
yes. A lot of them are trying
or
to be
digital marketer
PMS.
or growth marketer, right?
Yeah,
But there's this whole space
yeah.
here that exists.
It exists, man. It exists like bad.
So I find that interesting.
Also, it's legal for them to do ads in the UK. I think some countries you can't. So it's legal for them to do ads in the UK. So there's the industry. It
Exactly.
exists, which is yeah,
So it's just like not being too focused on job titles because yeah,
man.
like
Me, I'm generally not focused on job titles. Honestly,
same.
I think that for me, it's mostly. I think okay, so the general broad thing is I like to do marketing in software companies. That's what I know. Like I like to do it. I enjoy it. It gets my brain grinding. It's always very challenging, even
Mm,
when it doesn't seem like it from the outside, right? So for me, it's like I know this is the broad thing I want to do. The other thing is now like, okay, so how do I convince somebody on the hiring side of things that although my CV doesn't have this exact job title, I can
yeah,
actually do it.
exactly.
Like I can do
Ex-
it.
I think that that's a very interesting because I've noticed something that I'm noticing more recently is that people are looking for like they're
Exact
not
match.
even reading exactly they're not
Yeah,
reading
yeah,
the parts of your CV that talk about what you actually have done and
yeah.
what you did, but they're just scanning for job
The job
titles.
titles, and then a few points. Yeah,
And that I find to be very insane
yeah.
because
It's just the state
what
of the world.
job titles are so different because like you could see a product designer in one in company A and product designer in company B, the same job title, but they're doing entirely
They're doing
different
entirely different
things.
things. Yep, yep. They're doing entirely
So
different things.
what is the point of fixating on job titles?
So, can I be devil's advocate for the recruiting people?
No, but go ahead.
Okay, I can be. So the challenge is that because there is in the last few years, there's you know massive unemployment that has come into specific industries, particularly our industry. Unemployment is
Mm,
higher than usual. So there's so many people looking for jobs. There are people who are experienced. There are also people who are, not that experienced, also looking for the same jobs.
yeah.
So there's just so many people applying to jobs. And so the HR person or the person in recruiting or the hiring manager, whoever is looking at the CVs, is unable to actually firstly look at everybody's CV. That's
Yeah.
the first thing. Two, because they're looking at so many CVs, they don't have the time or the necessary processes and framework to decide based on individual CVs. So it's much easier and much better for an HR person, right, or whoever is recruiting and looking at the CVs to just satisfy. And I'm going to just give an example. So let's say I'm looking for a content marketing manager, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of people who are going to apply with marketing titles. Some will apply with marketing manager, some will be brand marketing, some will be performance, some product marketing, multiple different titles. In real life, I know that they can all do the job. right?
Yeah.
But if I'm getting 20 CVs to look at, and there are 5, 10 CVs who have content marketing as their most recent role or current role, and there are 15 others who have other marketing titles, it just makes sense for me to bring all the content marketing people into interviewing and dump everybody else, because I have found the exact match, right?
Yeah.
The danger there is for people who might be transitioning from other marketing roles, they will find it extremely difficult to transition into some new job title that also interests them. But on the recruiter side of things, where there's speed, they need to move, they need to just satisfy, like on some level, it doesn't really matter who gets the job. I'm not saying it doesn't
Hmm.
matter, but do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, like
In
you
their
just need to
head,
feel they need to feel the role, Sha.
they need to fill the role. The hiring manager needs to be happy with the candidates they've selected. So they will select the closest match, and then they will then move that on to the next step for somebody to approve or confirm that, yeah, this is what they're looking for. Right. So they will do things like look at the most recent job title or the most recent two job titles. Uh, they would probably scan through the intro if you have like a personal summary or something. Then they will also try to
Yeah.
see what industries those companies are in, right? So, for example, if the industry is like, let's say, construction tech, for example, if you've worked in construction tech before, you probably have a higher advantage. In fact, if you work with a company that is so popular in that space, you also have a higher advantage, even if your job title is kind of different.
Mm.
So, there's the company name being recognizable in that particular sector. Then there is also like, the title thing. Then there's just like generic companies that are just impressive on people's CVs, right? Like if
Yeah.
somebody went and worked in Big Four, they'll probably give person an interview, even if it's not a really good match,
Yeah.
right? Somebody went to work at Big Four or Fang or something, they'll be like, oh, this person wants to work here. We are going to give them a shot because the company is recognizable, right? So it's it's such an interesting problem from a career perspective, because how do I ensure that I'm doing work that is, one, title is recognizable to recruiters as I move on, company is recognizable, and then the JD itself is somewhat recognizable. And it's like, there's not that many opportunities,
Yeah,
which
it's
is the
very
problem.
stressful. That's the big problem because like
Which is the
if you've
problem.
mostly worked with small startups,
Yes,
it's
who
not
nobody knows their name,
it's not
right?
recognizable.
Nobody knows their name, and the title of the job means you're doing so much broad stuff,
Yeah.
right? You
Or
just have
like
to,
you're in a niche startup. Like so there's one thing to work for a startup that is financial services. So even if
yeah,
nobody knows the name, oh, okay, at least it's financial services. So what if you're
yep,
working in a startup that offers a specific service to a specific
yeah,
industry?
like maybe mining software or something.
I don't want to give the example that I wanted to give because it
Yeah,
will be like I don't want to mention,
let's
but
just say
like
like mining software. It's like,
yes,
oh, but if I'm selling software to people who run mining operations, I can probably sell software to people who run, I don't know, educational operations as well. Like, it doesn't mean that, like, do you get what I'm saying? As a person, the skills are
this
the same,
exactly
the
it's the
experience is
same
transferable.
skill.
I don't have to learn about the educational industry to sell software to them.
Like you don't need
Do you
to
get what
know
I'm saying?
every
I
single
don't need
thing
to know
in
everything.
detail. You just
Exactly.
need to know enough to do the work, which
Enough to
is
do the
not
work.
impossible to
Yeah, but
do.
but the recruiting person is not seeing it like that, right? They're seeing it as, let me put the best uh people forward, and so they will do all of that thing. So what many people then tend to do when they want to transition now, seeing as the market is this crazy, is they would actually use their own network to go work for a company that is maybe very small or new in that space, because it's much easier. Like, if you don't have exact job title match from your recent experiences, it's much easier if you get a referral or an intro, which is so funny because my most recent role, I got rejected for it. I applied for two roles in the company, I got rejected for both of them. And then someone did an intro, someone did a referral for me to one of those roles, and then I got to interview, and then I got the job.
Wow.
They had actually thrown me away, which is such a funny thing, because then somebody actually looked at my CV and was like, "Oh, this person can definitely do the job." But initially, for some reason, they never got to my CV. They did see it, so they rejected everybody, like all of us lumped. But I was like, "No, I'm not going. I'm going to ask somebody for a referral." I was like,
Do you
"This,
know
you
it's
know,
very interesting I said because I was going to ask when we were talking about like the difficulty with like titles and all of those things. I was going to say that something that I'm also which is like it's so annoying that this is how the world works, but
yeah,
this is how the world works is it really helps when there's somebody who refers you.
hmm
It's annoying,
yeah."
it can feel unjust even,
It's
but
unjust. Let's not lie.
yeah, I didn't want to say it but Yeah, because it's like, why do I have to know somebody to that can,
Yeah.
but it's unfortunately how the world sometimes works, where, which is not to say that you can't get in if you don't
Oh,
have
you can.
referrals,
Oh, you
because
can.
people do that, it does happen, but it definitely makes it a lot easier for you if someone refers you.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why when people apply for like really large, like let's say investment bank programs, for example, they try to get somebody who's there who can put in a word for them or who can even just guide them in the process. Because it's like there's just recruiters just have companies just have so many options these days. It's
Yeah,
also why they do this whole 5 stage, 6 stage, 8 stage thing. When I started my
100
career,
stage.
I would just do a call on the phone. I kid you not. I'll do a call on the phone or I'll go to an office and talk to somebody and they'll give me the job on the same day. Like this was just 10 years ago ish. They'll give me the job on this, like I would know before I left the building whether I got the
If
job or not.
exactly, and I really, I can definitely say that I relate to that, because it's like you just go for one interview and
Yeah.
everybody's,
Yeah.
you do, or you do, like I remember I was saying this just yesterday, that majority of, in fact I would say all of the jobs that I have done was literally one converse, almost all of them one conversation, two.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like one or two calls
It wasn't even,
and
it didn't even feel like interviews, it was just conversation. But
yeah.
now it's a crazy
Yeah.
market
Then
out
by
there.
2020, I started to do like assessments, which is I'll do like one or two assessments. In fact,
Yeah.
there was a time in 2018 when I did a 7 stage assessment process, which
Mm,
is
that's
insane.
insane. That's a
It's
lot.
insane. I did multiple assessments. I did multiple calls to present the assessments to meet the team. Then eventually, guess what happened? They hired somebody that came through a referral. And I was like, then just delete the steps and just let people refer their friends so you can just hire them. So that person didn't do
Honestly,
any of the 7 steps I did.
it's, I feel like it's just showing how much more difficult the industry has
It's
become,
so difficult. If
because
you
like, even thinking about how many times I've received offers that have been withdrawn,
Yep.
or did like 7 steps of interview, and maybe even speak to CEO or VP or something and something, and then they'll be like, oh, we did, they did not hire anybody else, so they just are
Yeah.
not
That's
continuing.
so, that's
Like,
so
it's
crazy.
just so many random
There's
weird
so many things
things
happening.
that are
There's so many
happening.
things.
And the question I've been asking myself, and people have been in a lot of conversations I've been having recently, has been coming up, is, I want to keep working in tech.
Man, you people should not please let's not talk about that on this podcast today. I was going to say that one of the other challenges um is you see a lot of companies now post jobs that clearly don't exist. So I'll give
Mm.
one example and I'll call them out. Canonical. Canonical posts marketing roles in at least 25 different cities across the world and consistently post them work week on week. Those jobs don't exist.
I keep seeing them as well. And it's
They
not
don't
just
exist.
marketing roles. I see them for a lot of different
Yeah. I
roles.
see specifically the marketing ones, but I don't see the other ones. They don't exist. There's no job in that company that has those titles. I don't know why they're doing it. I've heard people say that sometimes when people are raising money from PE firms, the amount of public job postings can be seen as a signal for growth,
Interesting.
right? But those jobs don't exist, and it's ridiculous because I am a person looking for a job and trying to find. Maybe I'm unemployed, I've just lost my role, or something just happened. I'm trying to find a new role, and I'm applying to jobs, but you're not
And
telling
they're
me that
not
oh, most
real.
of them are not real and they don't exist,
That
or
is, I don't even know what
um
to say.
yeah, that's also happening. There's also the ones where oh the job has clearly expired, right? But some random recruiting freelancer on LinkedIn or Twitter is going to keep posting it over and over again.
Personally,
But it doesn't it's closed. And the person who's posting it knows that
no,
it
it's
has closed,
closed.
right? Like why are you doing this? People need work, man.
It's
Like people,
so
please. HR people,
terrible.
please. Like why
It's
are you doing this?
terrible.
Right? So those are the kind of things that's happening, but it's only happening because there's actually the market has kind of shifted a bit to on some level be like an employer's market. So employers are just like, okay,
Mm,
we're going to do whatever. Do you get
yeah.
what I'm saying? See, there's not a lot of competition now, but I've seen some signal. I think things are gonna change soon again, um, and
Hopefully.
maybe there will be respites. But as for do I want to continue working in tech? I don't know. 2025, we'll see.
Honestly, because like, especially now, it's a question that people are asking me a lot. Like, what are you going to do after your masters? What are you going to do after your masters? And
Mm.
I'm like, bro, I don't know that. Like, I want to continue this wild, whatever is going on here, journey,
Yeah,
because
the yeah, the adventure don't do too much. Like it's like
I'm getting
no,
older. I'm
please,
almost 30. I can't keep doing this.
please. I'm old now. I need to. I don't. I also think like aside from even like all the challenges that are happening in this industry specifically, the biggest challenge is the personal growth challenge. The longer I
Thanks.
stay at a job, the better I actually am at it because I can. There's opportunities for growth. I can see those opportunities. I can build upon those opportunities. I can actually create them for myself, even if the company doesn't create it.
Hmm.
But the more I'm moving around, the more difficult it is to do at scale. Like so, all the projects in my most recent role, the really large projects I was working on, I didn't get to finish them.
That's another challenge with
Do you
like the
get
way
like
things
I
move
didn't
so
get to
quickly
finish
here.
I didn't get to finish any of the projects before 20% of the entire company it was laid off. So all of us across multiple teams didn't get to finish the projects we're working on. So are we going to see opportunity again to do it at this scale, at from from
And
scratch
that
or
kind
from
of
that thing,
projects,
and that
yeah.
kind of project? Maybe not, but that's an opportunity for all of us to grow in that aspect of our work that we haven't seen, right? I don't think that was probably the largest company I've worked with so far, 30 million monthly active users. That's massive impact, right? But I didn't get to do the impact because somebody made bad decisions. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, do I want to continue moving along to keep trying to grow at scale, or maybe I should just like free this thing, go out for Procter and Gamble, you know? Um,
Honestly, I've like traditional, quote unquote, traditional industries that seem more and more interesting to me
they've always been
of
interesting to
late.
me. I just wasn't interested in selling their stuff. Do you get? Which is like,
I
I
mean,
get what they are doing. It's nice. I literally started my marketing career in an ad agency that was working for banks and insurance and FMCGs. Do you
hmm,
get? But it's like, uh, I don't know. I don't know, honestly. Maybe that's what I need to do is like find a way to get back because now my entire CV is like tech and they're going to be like, you know,
yeah. I
which
don't know.
is
I just feel like for me, I'm starting to think more, and I did a whole episode about it. But like one of the things that has been coming to me, maybe I should just go back to academia because that's my first love.
the pay there
So
is terrible, man.
I
How
mean,
will you survive?
the pay that I've been paid in tech industry is not that great either. So I don't know. Like at least
Ah!
at least
Oh my
I'll be
god.
doing something that is meaningful, that is actually
Allegedly.
meaningful, not the
Allegedly.
fake meaningful that is going on here. I don't know. I'm just like, and even if it's not meaningful, at least I know that this. I don't know, Sha, but this
I
tech
get you,
industry,
Sharp. I get you. I get you. I think as you get older, you want more stability, more predictability, and clearly more growth. Right.
exactly.
Um,
I want to grow.
yeah. So a bunch of the like opportunities I have been like applying to now that I feel like last time I talked to you in my podcast, was I unemployed as well? I don't think so. But like now that I'm
No,
unemployed again, is like what's the word I want to use now? Is that I'm not applied to early stage startups.
yeah,
I
no,
can't
I
I
don't know.
can't.
I'm too old for that.
Do you no, it's not even about like, oh, I don't want to put in the work, or I can put in
No,
the work,
like
but
the
it's like I don't
instability
want
of
to
it.
build, I don't know, not even that for me is I don't want to build brands from scratch.
Hmm.
Like I've done it like what 6 times. I can't keep building brands from scratch. At some point, I need to scale the brand. Do you get
Yeah.
like, oh, what does this guy do? He builds brand from like no man, like there's no reward there. I've done it. There's no reward. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's
I
like
think
I can't keep. You can't keep. I can't. Like I see the roles. They like recruiters would DM me. Oh, it's early stage. A team of 7 people. I'm like, no. If you not give me 20 people to work with, free it.
I think that my challenge with early stage startups now is that, especially having seen the things that I have seen, I'm not convinced that many of the startups are actually doing things that are useful and will actually that are good business models basically because it's all VC funding money that is the driver. And then when VC money finish, then everybody's
Man,
laid off. So
bro,
what are we doing?
bro, it's just vibes. Everybody lived in found out was paying himself $1 million a year at an early stage company.
Like what
So it's
is
like
going
there's no
on?
point. That's why I'm not
So,
even interested. I'm
like
like,
so
you are
it's
not
like
serious people.
if I'm seeing that there's an actual valuable
Yeah.
business opportunity here, maybe,
Nah,
perhaps I could do it.
that's somebody else's
But
problem.
but the
Oh.
fact that like most of what I'm saying is just things that of like a lot of times I see things I'm like, how is this thing making money or supposed to make money? Because
It
I don't
can't.
see it.
It can't. It's not supposed to. Don't worry. It's the game. The game is not to earn income. The game is to lay off every year until it's obvious again that okay, maybe these five people running the company cannot run it. Let's find somebody else. So they just keep laying off every year. My
So that's
previous
my
employer has laid off
challenge.
every year since 2020. You can't tell me those guys are trying to make it. They're not trying to make it. Like, no, now. They're not trying to make it. They're just enjoying life. It's
I have a
vibes.
hot take about that, but I think that I don't want to say it because I'm gonna get in trouble. So I'll say it.
With
I'll tell
who?
you after.
With your
I don't know.
roommates.
I don't know. I don't know if
See,
I'll get in trouble with,
see,
but
you know what's funny about this thing now? I literally have
what?
nothing to lose. Like, what's the worst that someone's going to come and tell me? I said something and they were offended by it and they write a thread on LinkedIn. Bro, I will write a rebuttal and I write an essay. I write an
Me,
entire essay.
yeah, but it's just interesting because the question, which brings me back to like the general question of the whole thing is like, what does a career even mean at this point? What are we doing?
Just
Where
see,
do you
enjoy your
move?
life. That's what I can tell. That's what I can tell anybody. It's like, see, if you're like, I don't know the age of people listening to this podcast. If you're like 40 and maybe you read an investment memo and interested in finance, just find somebody that will give you a job there. I just go and do the job. The people that they don't have two heads. Finance, you see, people will be finance bros might be upset at this, but we've seen how they've ruined the world multiple times. They're not the most intelligent people in the world. So same thing with tech bros. So if you are interested in the job, just take the
It's
course,
just
pass the exam,
opportunity and
time.
exactly. It's like the
Just do
right
it,
time and finding the
man.
right opportunities.
Me, I'm doing
I know
cybersecurity
listen.
course now. So
Not cybersecurity.
okay. Make una dey there.
Cybersecurity.
Make una dey there. This cybersecurity course. But I don't have energy to talk too much. Any course I see, if it's interesting, I take it. I learn.
I
Let me
mean, and
see.
that's that's how we actually started, right? Like you see things and you
I used to
explore
just
what
do
seems
things. But I
interesting.
don't go mistakenly over explore this problem now. So I don't want to over explore. If money don't dey there, I don't dey.
But I think that that's a thing that, and I think that I feel like for some reason it gets harder not that it gets harder, like that it's difficult to do, but because of all the constraints around you with like time and work and responsibility, it's mentally harder to embrace that exploratory nature of like, oh, what could happen
Yes.
here, what could this lead
Yes.
to, because you're
Exactly.
so used to something else and it
The
feels more
summary is
comfortable and you
base.
have more responsibility, it feels more high stakes,
The
that you
stakes
can't
are
just
actually high.
make certain kinds of decisions
Yeah.
just because you feel
Which is
like
which is why I need somebody to fund me for my next AI startup. Just give me like 100 million. Don't worry, we'll make it.
not 100 million.
Give me 100 million, we'll set that 1 billion. I will go our ways. We'll be first forever, whatever, buy an island or whatever. Just give me 100 million. Seed round or 100 million. Let's go. Let's make it. Let's
So
make if you're listening to this and you're an investor, I have AI ideas for you. Email
but
me.
yeah, I think my thing that I've taken out of all of these things, and especially with like my most recent experience, is that at the end of the day, the most important thing for me personally, at least, is doing knowing that I did my best. Like I put in my own, and it's not about like, oh, what is somebody going to say externally or give me externally, but like just putting my best into whatever I am doing, so that
Yeah.
at least I've learned, even if like I didn't get the exact outcome that I wanted, I know that I have developed myself in some way and I have lived in integrity with myself, basically. I don't know
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. So, like I was saying, like for me at my previous role, right? My goal since like I moved was basically like how do I do work that has large scale impact, right? Because in the side we're coming from, there's lots of economic reasons why like the work doesn't
Yeah.
really scale that well because people just don't have money to spend. So I started looking for those opportunities, I started to apply to those opportunities, right? So for me, it was like, oh, then I saw it and it wasn't impressive. God forgive me. I said that I wasn't impressed, and I was like, "Oh, surely there's more to this." Do you get what I'm saying? So that's
Mm-mm-mm.
something that like just rang true in my head, which is like I'm still looking for those opportunities because for me, it's like massive growth in terms of how I think about my work and how like I implement my work, right?
Mm.
So for one example, right, previous product I was working on was operating in like 150 countries. So every time I'm pushing out a new campaign, I'm thinking about the legal ramifications of what I can say and cannot say in all those countries, which is different
Yeah.
from what I was doing in my previous role where it was much less. I think about the legal thing, but it was just in much less markets,
In one, yeah.
right, than this. So for me it's like, oh, so this is what scale is like and this is what the requirements, of scale are. So I did pick up some things there, but like I didn't finish my project, which is so painful, which is
Yeah.
in my so like every time I'm interviewing now, basically asking people like how many years is leadership trying to commit to this marketing program. I mean, they don't know. Okay, red flag. So like, yeah, because like if I'm going to do something at scale, right, and build something from scratch or evolve or grow, I want to do it for maybe like, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Let me actually see impact. Let me learn some skills. Something I also really picked up in my most current place was working with multiple stakeholders across different cross-functional teams and getting them to actually agree on something and being able to
Mm.
just like
Yeah.
whine and wash people until they agree. Do you get? Which is
Stakeholder
is
management.
which is called stakeholder management, which is basically just whining guys and babes. But like previously, I didn't have that experience to do it in a large team. Our marketing team was
Yeah.
maybe 90 to 100 people. Um, and there were problems that had been there for like 2 years. And thankfully, I was able to come in and solve some of those problems, right? And get people to
Mm.
just work together. So that's like one skill that I'm still trying to hone, which is like, oh, there are 10 people that have to make this decision. I need to make sure like everybody feels happy or feels at the very least can commit to this new idea or
Yeah.
this new campaign. How do I do that? How do I get the appropriate data points? How do I talk about managing the risks of this new idea? But so it was a really interesting thing just working with different people and seeing how like people communicate and act differently, especially culturally. Different people from all around the world all behave so
Yeah.
differently. It's so crazy to deal with. So I did learn those things there, and learn how to be able to is it context switch or code switch when I'm interacting with different people. Because if I'm talking to like
Yeah.
somebody in California now, who I don't know, who is very adventurous, for example, the things I'm telling them are coming from somebody who like is in the security team in Europe
Mm.
because those guys don't like to do new stuffs. So do you get what I'm saying? So just being able to just get that context as quickly
Yeah.
as possible, maybe talk to a few other people and be like, what is this person like to work with, and getting that knowledge and being able to now
Mm.
like work with them and being able to just like switch as often as possible was really helpful for me because I was very open to like learning and open to just putting in all the work and building those relationships because man, it was so much relationship building those
Yeah.
relationships. um I think is valuable for me as a person, even if I don't
Yeah.
get to work in that industry again or in that role or in those roles rather. It's really valuable
But it's
stuff
things
that I
that
can
apply
say
elsewhere.
it'll probably, yeah, it definitely applies elsewhere. Exactly. It will apply elsewhere, can probably be used for some other job. Can probably be very useful in some other thing that I'm even maybe just doing in my own life personally. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
who knows where it will take me, right? But like, how do I
Yeah.
put that on a CV? Which is what I'm trying to figure out to do and be like, oh, yeah, because I do have some like metrics on my CV which were achieved, but I want to be able to say 2 years before I joined, people had been battling this problem.
Yeah. And
Like
then
I
I
was their
joined
sick,
and
and then I came and everybody was hailing me, and all I
yeah.
actually did was just vibe and wine people. Do you get? How do I communicate that in like an
Corporate
interview, for
speak.
example, in corporate speak, which is my own challenge. But like other than that, I
Yeah.
think there's still some things I'm doing. Like I'm writing again. I'm writing starting a new publication. Um,
Mm,
if you're
nice.
listening, it's called Growth Case Studies. Starting a new
Oh
publication, so I
yeah,
have to figure out,
you did the one about flow, right?
yes, and one new one about Notion.
Okay.
So it's just like, so this is also me again throwing myself in the deep end of beginning, right? How
Mm.
do I get people to read this stuff? How do I get people to see it, to interact with it? um it's also forcing me to do a lot of things that I'm generally not comfortable with doing in terms of like public talk on the
Not that they are
internet.
bad things to do,
No,
but
it's
like
not bad. It's just not me. It's not just things I've done before. Like I write, I share my ideas, but like I have to overly post this thing maybe like twice a week now,
mm,
which is not how I typically like. I write things, I post it once, and if you like, don't
and
read
you
it,
move
right? But
exactly.
I
You
want people
don't.
to actually read these things. I want people who work in tech in San Francisco, in New York, in London to read these things, and like
Yeah.
that's not my network. So
So you have to put in the work to get it to
I
them.
have to be going to events, man. God. I have to be going to be friendly with strangers and laugh at all their
Well,
jokes. But like,
not laugh at
yeah,
all their jokes,
I laugh at all their
please.
jokes. So except it's racist, sure, but laugh at
Olabinjo,
all their jokes.
please.
Um, so it's just like another skill for me. Again,
Yeah.
when I was leaving home, I used to how to my career was I was going to tech events, right? So I have to do that again.
Yeah.
I need to meet people, tell them about the stuff I'm writing, get their feedback, see if they like it, they don't like it. But it's also like for me, it's also like a whole marketing campaign initiative. I literally have a spreadsheet of things I need to do every week on that publication.
Mm,
Um, it also means that because the things I'm writing now are a little bit deeper than what I typically used to write, it's taking longer to write. And I'm a bit impatient at myself to be honest. But it's taking me longer to write, longer to think, longer time to just synthesize ideas, longer time to edit, to create images.
mm.
Um, and for the Notion thing, I literally just sat down and wrote it in one day, edited it in one day, created images the next week, and just published because I was like, I felt like I was getting in my way.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to keep doing that. So it's like for me, it's just basically another skill, which is like how do I write things? The Notion thing was meant to be 600 words, it ended up being I think 1,200. I don't know.
Wow.
So how do I write things that are like kind of long form, but also write them consistently on some cadence, even if it's just like once a month, right? Um, Write something consistently, distribute it to people who I think want to read it, get people interested in reading things I have to say, but then also finally, how do I make income from this stuff? Um, and I have made income from like publications and websites online before, but it's a completely different world
Yeah.
now. Um, there's
Yeah.
opportunities I haven't ever like approached, so it's something I have to think about from my own perspective, which is like 9 to 5 is not 9 to 5 in.
Mm.
What are some opportunities to make money from this thing? How do I want to make money and keep my opinion honest, right? I don't know. I believe in ads, unlike most people. So, so I believe in ads to keep things free, unlike most people. So I need to also figure that out. Like, do I want to do ads? Do I want to do subscriptions? What are the trade-offs if I have to do a subscription? Um, but like, it's just a lot of like, honestly, personal growth and lots of overthinking. And I'm trying to avoid just thinking too much and just write and publish like I used to. But it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough
Which
because
brings
I
us
have
back to what we said earlier, right? Because
yes,
it's harder because there's this sense of like I've done all these things and there's this level of expectation that you have of yourself and that you think other people have of you that
yeah,
makes it harder to just talk like you used
yeah,
to before.
yeah, exactly. There's that. But like on some level, also nobody has given me negative feedback, which is really bad.
Mm.
I wish somebody would just say like, "Oh, this thing you wrote, it was long, but it's too long, so I didn't read the whole thing. I didn't like it." But like people are actually engaging with it and they're sharing with their friends. Like I'm seeing the stats. People are spending minutes reading it, coming back to it, sharing with their friends. Um,
Mm.
and it's like, okay, but I need feedback. Like I need idea. If you give me feedback, I'll have better ideas. Do you get? Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, hoping to be able to do that. Something I also want to go back to doing is consulting. I used to consult a lot, and I stopped doing that sometime in 2019 to focus on one company that didn't really go anywhere. But like, I'm trying to see if there's opportunities for me to go back to consulting because the reason I started doing consulting in the very beginning was that it keeps my knowledge very broad. I get to know a lot of things about multiple different industries that I work in, like sub tech or whatever other industries, right?
Yeah. I
So
do
I
like
don't,
that about consulting.
yeah, and I don't know, like, I don't have like a pipeline in my head of here are the kind of companies I want to work with. Do you get? So I'm also trying to figure that
Yeah.
out for 2025. And it's meant I've given myself a very massive income goal last year, and only God can help me and save me. Because even this year's goal, I didn't even reach it. So So
Please, please
I didn't reach this
now.
year's goal, but I've done what founders do and I've set the bar higher. Ah.
Well,
So
fair.
we'll see next year. So just a bunch of things I'm trying to figure out from like really there, and all of these things I've mentioned are like they actually help me in my work. Funny enough, it's actually not just
Yeah.
like personal development; it's also like really helpful in career development. And
Mm.
like you said, there's all the other things I have to think about, like responsibilities. I have to pay rent, you know. But for me, it's just like I don't know. I'm trying to see if I can do like the publishing, for example. If I can do it at this level twice a month, right? I'm more than happy to. Do you get what I'm saying? I can do it
Yeah.
at this level where I'm doing it, where I'm writing. Like I don't know if you've read the one about Notion, right? Where I'm
I've
writing
read.
this kind of
I haven't
thing.
seen the Notion one. I only saw the Flow one, but I'll check out
Okay,
the
I'll
Notion
send the
one.
Notion one to you. If I'm writing things like this, can I write them twice a month? Do I want to write them once a month? The really big deep dives, the flow thing was like, I don't know, 3,000 or 2,000 and something words eventually. I think it's 3,000 words actually. I don't know. Yeah, it's probably about 3,000 words. Is that like it takes months to write that, and I know I'm never going to be able to write that in a week. It's impossible,
Yeah.
right? It just takes a really long time. But the Notion thing is something I wrote like in 1 hour in the library. Um, so can I do more of that stuff? How can I like ensure I'm always having like all these good ideas? Because to me, it's a good idea. People seem to like it as well. And how can I just like keep pushing and keep writing? Because the funniest thing about all these things is in the last two things I've published, I actually really enjoyed the writing process because it seemed
Mm.
like something I would do in my job, which is like, oh, let's figure out a new product feature that we can sell to customers that'll bring more money or whatever, whatever, whatever. I actually enjoyed it. It was like it was like a reverse tear down for me, and that's something like I always do even when I just download apps, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like that's what I'm trying to figure out for 2025. Um, hopefully, I can get out of my way more and
I
just
guess that's just like just that thing of being a beginner again, because I think that's what like we're all afraid of. Like assuming I
uh,
don't know anything again.
bro, being a beginner sucks. I can't even lie.
It does. It does. Like it's so annoying to not know how to do something or
Yeah,
to be starting, especially when it's something you've done before but you have to start again. It's
yeah.
very annoying.
Like I've been
I
using
won't lie.
Canva again. Like the Notion stuff, for example, I basically did. So I have a template in Canva, right, that I'm using to build the images for the Notion thing or for my blog post, and I basically did a bunch of the images myself. Um, Obviously, I have an assistant who helps me figure out like, does this make sense or does it not make sense? But I did a bunch of the images myself. But it reminded me of like when Canva first came out and I was using Canva for images, and I was like, oh, where is this tool? And how do I figure this out? And like, how do I make sure it's aligning? And like, do I have enough images here? Do I not have enough images? It's like when I started writing, like for I don't know if anybody remembers like Technestivity a long time ago. I used to have to do images stuff, and so for me, it was like I had to figure out and think about like that again, right? I previously used to do that for work, right? But I'm trying to put more effort into doing things that I benefit from directly. That
Yeah.
is not like some other corporation focused. And I'm trying to find opportunity where like I would be able to keep writing these things. Because there's probably jobs somewhere you can take where like, you know, where like you don't have the freedom to express. I've taken a job
Yeah.
like that before where they were like, oh, if you want to write any blog post, you have to let us know. And I was like, lol. But there are things like that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, so just thinking about all those what's it called now? Those trade-offs,
Yeah.
and just doing it, really. Just doing it, just doing it, just doing
Yeah.
it.
I think that's a
Um,
good place to end this. Like, yeah, just do it. Just go and do the thing.
do the thing, do the thing.
Whatever the thing is for you. But yeah, this was another great conversation on career.
Is that like the only thing people talk about on this podcast? I don't think
No,
so.
that's the thing that you talk about on the podcast.
See, I'm not like that in real life, because I'm going through one lot through challenges are facing me. So I have to constantly be thinking about like I try, trust me, like I didn't know that was all this podcast was going to because I know we talked about the money thing. I guess that's
Yeah.
why it led to this. But the money thing in summary is that if you're doing a job that like you think is really low paying, there's probably somebody else somewhere in the world who's willing to pay, or in some other industry who's willing to pay more for it.
Yeah.
With the same amount of skill set that you have today. You might not even need to upskill at all.
Yeah.
Right. Then second other thing is like ask for more money. Even if they say even if the JD said that's the cap, just ask.
Just ask. What
There's
is they
there's
say no?
typically like a 5 to 15 or 20K budget, depending on the role. Sometimes it can be 50. Like I've seen job roles where like the band is 70 to 140K. That's
Wow,
insane.
that's a huge
But like,
range.
yeah, but like if you do not ask and convince them that like you should get the top amount, they're probably not going to get it.
Yeah.
So it's very important to do that. What other thing have we said? Just like, yeah, 30s is hard. Try not to let it weigh you down. Be a good person. Can't even lie. I don't even know what's going on. Like, it's when it reaches my turn that everything is always catching. When it reached my turn for 20s to enjoy, that's when economy crashed.
Oh my god. I don't let's not go there.
Now we reach my
Okay.
turn again. They should just fix it. Whoever is in charge, let me
Let's
call their names.
no no
Donald
no
Trump, Keir
let's
Starmer,
not
fix it,
go there.
please.
Who are these people?
EU
Anyway.
people, fix it, please. CEOs, fix it.
Everybody should fix it.
Central bank governors in whatever country, solve this problem. We are being paid. Solve this problem. Kindly. Make our 30s great again.
Oh my god. All right then. Let's wrap it up here.
I've wrapped it up. That's my final statement. Make our 30s great again.
All right. All righty. Okay, cool. Thank you for coming up on the podcast again. I will include the link to the case studies in the show notes for people who are curious. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening. Bye.
You're welcome. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of A Couple of Things. If there was anything you found interesting or insightful or you enjoyed the episode, please do share to someone or multiple people. Like, leave a comment, and definitely do subscribe and all the nice things. Bye.